All the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. Welcome back to Why Hope, the video series that explores causes for hope in our day. Well, we are in season 10 because it's Advent, and here we are looking at promises and glimpses of hope hidden in plain sight in the prophets. Now today I'm going to take you to a part of Isaiah that is probably very familiar, but it contains some verses that we often skip, and which I think it's a real shame that we skip because they show us something really wonderful. So if I begin by reading you what you're probably very familiar with. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And it continues, and we'll read that bit in a minute. But sadly, that reading, so familiar to many of us from our carol services, has skipped from verse 1 to verse 6 of Isaiah 9. And I want us to look at what comes in the middle. But before I do that, I want us to look at what leads into those verses as well. So I'm going to start again, and I'm going to read from the end of Isaiah 8. Now listen to this. Now if people say to you, consult the ghosts and the familiar spirits that chirp and mutter, should not a people consult their gods, the dead, on behalf of the living, for teaching and for instruction? So that's what these people are saying. Surely those who speak like this will have no dawn. Now, let's just pause here a minute, because I want you to notice this advice that Isaiah is advising against, if you like, is to consult the dead on behalf of the living. And I think it is no coincidence that those words echo in the mouth of the angel in the Garden of Resurrection, when they say to, is it to Mary, I think, or is it to Peter and John? They say, why are you looking for the living among the dead? Do not seek for advice for the living from those who are dead. Seek it from those who are living. So that, I think, that opening little phrase from this passage in Isaiah, I think, already is giving us a glimpse of a moment when we will have a living saviour who, and we will never need to consult the dead, if you see what I mean. Right. So if people say to you all these things, consult the dead on behalf of the living for teaching and instruction. Surely, says Isaiah, those who speak like this will have no dawn. They will pass through the land greatly distressed and hungry. When they are hungry, they will be enraged and will curse their king and their gods. They will turn their faces upwards, or they will look to the earth, but they will see only distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they will be thrust into thick darkness. Now, this may not sound like some verses that are bringing hope, and I agree, this sounds desperate, but I think it sounds very much like the state of our world right now, where so many are staggering around in a sense of absolute hopelessness, absolute loss of clarity of light, of vision. It is a wandering in deep darkness, and it is something that Isaiah sees, understands, and promises something different. So beginning of chapter 9 now, but reading it in the context of those closing verses from chapter 8, because I think this is a continuous prophecy. But there will be no gloom for those who were in anguish. In the former times he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he will make glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. So those who have been caught in this utter darkness, this utter oppressive lack of vision and lack of sight, and we I think know or understand what that feels like. But there will be no gloom in the future, because here we go, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them the light has shined. Now we're going to read the bit that comes between verse 2 and verse 6. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder. So Isaiah's building up some expectation. There will be no more gloom. We described the utter gloom of those who don't understand where to look for hope and for light, and they're trapped in that. But God makes a promise that gloom will be shattered. And these people, he says, they're going to rejoice like at the harvest. Now, some of us have harvest festivals in our churches, and they are times of thanksgiving and rejoicing, but quite frankly, most of us are so detached from the agricultural cycle that we don't perhaps celebrate in the way that we ought to when the harvest is in, because actually we can go and get food in the shelves of our supermarkets every day of the year. But in this ancient world, the harvest in is such a cause of celebration, because this is the means whereby we know that we will live for another year. So this is great celebration, and it's going to be like that, says Isaiah. Let's keep building. What is this all about? Because the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppression, you have broken. Like on the day of Midian. Well, that's the story of back in the story of Gideon, actually, when God through Gideon throws off this oppressive yoke. But the key thing is they're going to celebrate like it's a harvest, because all that has oppressed them is now being broken. So we're building up, okay? Verse 5. And all the boots of the tramping warriors and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. So now we've got a vision of the oppressive armies of the enemy, whose equipment whose war equipment is going to be put into the furnace. But I think even more than that, I think this is a glimpse of all military violence being consigned to the furnace. All the boots of the tramping warriors, all the garments rolled in blood will be burnt as fuel for the fire. Isaiah is glimpsing something of world peace. So there was gloom. Those who have no hope, it's like living in gloom, but there is a promise that there will be light for those who are in gloom. Why? What's it going to be like? It's going to be like the harvest, because harvest celebration, because the oppressive yoke has been thrown off, because there's going to be world peace. And now we land because a child has been born to us. A son has been given to us. Let's not skip over those middle verses. It builds up so much of what this child is going to do and what this child is going to achieve, and it makes this moment, this mic drop moment in verse 6, the climax of all this build-up that Isaiah has skillfully and artfully woven in to his oracle here. For a child has been born to us, a son is given to us, authority rests upon his shoulders. And this is why the yoke can be broken and world peace can be established. And he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. This promise that the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light, for a child is born to us. It is so much richer and better than we ever perhaps have noticed. And here's yet another reason why in this Advent season we can find cause for hope.